105 millimeters. That is the caliber of a field howitzer, a weapon designed to be dug into the earth, chained to a gun carriage, and fired by a crew standing on solid ground. And for 50 years, the most feared aircraft in the American arsenal carried one of these bolted to its left side, 30,000 feet in the air. You would think an aircraft would fight to keep a weapon like that. The United States Air Force is doing the opposite. It has spent years studying how to take the cannon out. Not because the gun stopped working, it works exactly as well as it did the day it was designed. The AC-130J Ghostrider can still put a 33-pound shell through a window from the darkness above. Soldiers on the ground still call it the Angel of Death, and they mean it as a blessing. The reason the Air Force wants to remove its most iconic weapon has nothing to do with the weapon. It has to do with a number the gunship cannot change, the geometry it must fly to use it. And in the airspace of the next decade, that geometry is an equation the crew cannot win. This is classified Decoded. Today we do the math on why the deadliest gunship ever built is being forced to give up its cannon, not to an enemy nation, but to an opponent that has never lost an argument: physics. To feel the weight of what the Air Force is giving up, you have to understand how absurd the AC-130 was to begin with. The idea was never supposed to survive a design review. Take a 4-engine cargo plane, a truck with wings, built to haul pallets, and bolt artillery to the side of it. Fly it in a circle. The concept was so improbable that when one of these gunships actually shot an enemy helicopter out of the sky, the crews started calling their creation the fabulous 4-engine fighter, half in pride and half to needle the men flying real jets. But the name that stuck was the one whispered on the ground, the Angel of Death. And it earned it honestly. When the gunship dispenses its infrared decoy flares to defeat a heat-seeking missile, the burning trails spread out behind it in 2 glowing arcs, wings of fire against the night, an angel, quite literally, raining down judgment. Here is what makes it different from every strike aircraft we have. An F-15E or an F-35 flies over a target, releases a bomb, and leaves. It survives by never staying. It trades presence for speed, energy for safety. The gunship refuses that trade. It does not fly over. It stays, circling overhead for hours, pointing a whole broadside of barrels at a single patch of earth. The modern Ghostrider carries a 30mm GAU-23 chain gun and that same legendary M102 howitzer. 164,000 pounds of cargo plane turned into a flying artillery battery. And over the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, against fighters who had no radar and no missiles that could reach it, nothing on Earth could touch it. That is the catch buried in that sentence. Against fighters who had no radar. The gunship's entire kingdom was built on the assumption that no one below could shoot back at altitude. Modern adversaries have spent 20 years dismantling that assumption. And to see why the cannon is what has to go, you have to start with the cannon itself, and the short, unforgiving reach that dictates everything the aircraft does next. The problem was never the cannon. The problem is what you must do with the airplane to fire it. Start with the weapon itself, because it is worth understanding what the Air Force is thinking about giving up. The M102 is not a machine gun. It is a field howitzer, the kind ground artillery crews dig into the earth, throwing a 33-pound shell that lands with the authority of a small building coming down on the target. From an orbit, the crew can walk those shells across the ground round after round, holding a single grid square under continuous fire until nothing in it is left standing. Nothing else in the inventory does that. But the shell is unguided, an arc of metal on a ballistic path, and it reaches barely 5 nautical miles from the aircraft. Which means to use it at all, the airplane has to be almost on top of the target. And getting there is where the geometry turns against it. A side-mounted gun cannot be aimed by flying straight. To keep the barrel pointed at one spot on the ground, the aircraft has to lock itself into a continuous circle, a maneuver called the Pylon Turn. The pilot banks the aircraft over and holds it there, tilting the wings lift inward so it becomes the centripetal force that curves 164,000 pounds around a fixed point on the Earth below. Watch what that does to the aircraft's energy. When you roll the lift vector onto its side, you rob yourself of the lift that was holding you up. To keep from sinking, the pilot pulls the nose up, increasing the angle of attack, and the wing answers with a wall of induced drag. 4 Rolls-Royce turboprops making nearly 19,000 combined horsepower can push this airframe past 360 knots in level flight. But locked in that bank, fighting its own drag, the gunship bleeds speed until it is loitering at a fraction of what it could do. Slow, heavy, and committed to a circle it cannot leave without losing the shot. And look at what that circle points at the ground. The C-130 has a 132-foot wingspan, and rolled up on one wing, it turns its entire flank, every square foot of it, toward the Earth. Against a rifle, none of that matters. Against the sky the next war will be fought in, it is a confession. The modern battlefield is defined by what planners call anti-access area denial, layered rings of radar and surface-to-air missiles built to contest the airspace itself. Picture a cargo aircraft with a radar signature near 100 square meters, flying at half its top speed, rolling its broadside toward a phased array radar looking for exactly that. This is the shadow working against you. An F-35 crossing that same beam registers as a smudge the operator has to squint at. The gunship fills the entire screen. It arrives already announced, and once it is in the circle, it cannot leave. The whole point of the orbit is to keep the barrel on the target, which locks the aircraft onto a track a missile crew can plot on a napkin. Same altitude, same speed, same patch of sky, minute after minute. A fighter that gets painted trades altitude for speed and runs. That is the whole logic of the energy state. The gunship has spent its energy staying still. It has nothing left to trade. And the radar is only the first way the airspace has changed. Down low, a shoulder-fired heat-seeker needs no radar at all. It just needs to see 4 hot engines against a cold sky. That is exactly what brought down Spirit 03 over Khafji in 1991. An AC-130 and its 14-man crew, defeated by a missile that cost less than a used car. The lesson has only sharpened since. An airplane that has to orbit slowly and low, inside the reach of every launcher for 100 miles, is an airplane the modern battlefield has already solved. The Air Force knows this. A FSOC has openly studied pulling the howitzer out to free up weight and space for weapons that strike from farther away. As of now, the gun stays. Budgets are tight, there is no drop-in replacement, and leadership has said plainly it expects to keep firing the 105 for years yet. But the same leadership admits that a future high-end fight probably involves less of it. Read that carefully. The cannon is not being taken because it failed. It is being edged out because the range it can reach and the range the aircraft can survive have stopped overlapping. If you cannot be fast and you cannot be small, the next instinct is to be invisible. The Air Force tried quite literally to make the gunship disappear. The plan was a beam of light. They spent years developing the airborne high-energy laser, a 60-kilowatt solid-state weapon meant to hang off the side of the Ghostrider and burn into a truck's engine block, or blind a drone's seeker in total silence. No muzzle flash, no missile plume, nothing for an enemy to trace back. Perfect, invisible reach. But aerodynamics does not negotiate. A laser that has to hold its focus on a target miles away needs to fire through calm, uniform air. The C-130 does not offer any. 4 huge, 6-bladed propellers churn a violent, swirling boundary layer of turbulence that runs the length of the fuselage, exactly the region the beam has to pass through. Send concentrated light through that churning, uneven density and it refracts, scatters, and loses coherence, dumping its heat into the sky long before it reaches anything. You cannot fire a clean beam of light through an aerodynamic blender. The turbulence won, and the program was canceled. So the engineers gave up on hiding the aircraft in the visible world and moved the fight into the electromagnetic one. The Ghostrider is receiving the deepest sensor upgrade in the airframe's history. the APG-83 Scalable Agile Beam Radar, an active electronically scanned array built on technology derived from the F-35's radar program and already proven on the F-16 Block 70. It lets the gunship map the ground in fine detail through cloud, smoke, and darkness from hundreds of miles out. It can see the target long before the target is anywhere near. But seeing is only half of survival. The other half is refusing to be seen, or at least refusing to be hit. For that, the aircraft carries the ANAL Q251 radio frequency countermeasure system. When a hostile radar paints the gunship, this system does not simply chirp a warning. Its wideband receivers read the enemy's frequency, calculate the angle the signal arrived from, and fix the geographic position of the missile site that sent it. Then it answers, not with metal, but with noise. Tailored jamming that plants false targets, breaks locks, and blinds the threat. This turns the Ghostrider into an electronic warfare fortress, but a fortress with a hard limit. Jamming cannot outrun a missile it failed to defeat, and it cannot fool an infrared seeker tracking engine heat instead of a radar return. What the ALQ-251 actually delivers is seconds, the narrow window between a launch and an impact. In this arena, seconds are the whole game. They are the distance between a flare that works and a fireball that does not. Seconds are survivable when you are already far away. So the real answer was never a better shield. It was to stop bringing the aircraft to the target at all. That means giving up the thing that defined it, its closeness, and replacing raw mass with reach. If the Ghostrider is going to live in contested airspace, it has to stop being a gun that must arrive and become an arsenal that strikes from range. The weapon that does it is the small cruise missile Leidos built as the Black Arrow, and as of this year, it wears an official name, the AGM-190A. It reverses the gunship's entire philosophy. Instead of lobbing an unguided shell 5 miles from a target, the Ghostrider has demonstrated launching a guided missile from another time zone. The mechanics are almost quiet. The aircraft lowers its rear cargo ramp and pushes the missile out through launch tubes. For a heartbeat, it is just a 200-pound object falling. Then a single wing snaps out, a small turbojet lights, and the thing levels off and flies, with a demonstrated range beyond 400 nautical miles. That single change rewrites the geometry. The Ghostrider no longer has to enter the lethal ring of a modern missile battery. It can hold in international airspace or over friendly ground and send precision weapons into the teeth of an air defense network from 400 miles back. Because the missile is built on an open architecture, the same tube can carry a different payload tomorrow, a warhead, a jammer, a sensor, without redesigning the aircraft. What the AGM-190A cannot do is what the cannon does best. It cannot walk a stream of low-yield rounds onto a moving enemy 600 feet from friendly troops. No cruise missile can. So this is not the gun's replacement. It is the replacement for needing to be there. In permissive skies, the question was always accuracy. In contested skies, the only question that matters is whether you can reach the target without being brought down getting there. The Ghostrider is trading the concussion of artillery it can feel in its chest for a weapon that leaves before the target ever knows it was in the sky. So take the accounting to its end. Pull the 105mm cannon. Bolt on a radar derived from a fighter's. Add a jammer that trades in seconds. Hang missiles that strike from 400 nautical miles. Stand the whole thing off, out past the missile rings, watching. Is that still a gunship? The battlefield has already started answering, and the answer is stranger than a yes or no. During Operation Epic Fury this year, Ghostriders deployed to the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. They did not drop down to pour cannon fire into the water. They held at standoff altitude, ran persistent surveillance, fed targeting data to the rest of the force, and pushed Iranian fast attack boats back under cover of the coast, largely by being overhead and being seen to be there. The cannon was still bolted on, but the mission that mattered had nothing to do with the cannon. It was the sensors, the data links, and the ability to run the battle from above it. That is the mutation. The aircraft that was built to fly in tight circles and pour lead into the dirt is quietly becoming something the original designers never drew: a flying command post. It has the electrical power to run big radar arrays, the endurance to stay up most of a day, and the internal volume to act as a server room with wings. It finds the target from beyond visual range, works the problem, and either fires the weapon itself or hands the solution to someone better placed to. The F-35's clearing the road ahead of it, for instance. And here is where the first half of this story turns over. That slow, exposed circle, the pylon turn we call the confession, was never the gunship's strength that had to be protected. It was the liability that everything else is being redesigned to escape. The cannon isn't leaving because a better cannon arrived. It's leaving because the aircraft finally found a way to matter without ever entering the range where the cannon could be used. When the gun does come out, next year or in 5, something genuinely irreplaceable goes with it. No missile 400 miles away can do what a howitzer does for a soldier pinned down 600 feet from the enemy. The Air Force has weighed that loss and accepted it, because the alternative is flying a slow, enormous aircraft into a sky where it would be lost long before it ever got close enough to fire. Subscribe to Classified Decoded. We don't worship the machine, we worship the energy state behind it, and the math that decides which airframes get to keep flying. Warfare is a filter with no sentiment in it. An aircraft that will not change is an aircraft that gets written off. For half a century, the AC-130 commanded respect through sheer weight of metal. Weight of metal is no longer enough. The Ghostrider is trading brute force for a longer arm and a quieter eye, giving up the intimacy of the circle for the cold arithmetic of distance. But when the terrifying authority of a cannon you can hear in your sternum is replaced by a missile that already left from somewhere over the horizon, we have to ask the honest question: is the angel of death surrendering its soul to survive? Or is it proving that in the airspace we are building for, the ultimate weapon was never the gun at all? It was the distance. The next time a Ghostrider works a battlefield, the troops below may hear nothing at all. The missile will have launched from far away, minutes ago. The math will be correct. Whether correct is the same as enough, that is the one question physics was never built to answer.